All right, so have you ever tried building a house without a blueprint?
Ew, probably not a good idea.
Yeah, I'm guessing it would be a recipe for disaster.
Right.
Well, launching a web application without a skilled web architecture developer is basically the same thing.
Right. Yeah,
Total structural chaos, and nobody wants that. So today,
definitely not.
we are doing a mini deep dive into the world of these kind of digital architects,
Okay.
answering your most frequently asked
All
questions.
right. I like it.
Think of it as your web architecture developer.
FAQ.
FAQ cheat sheet.
Cool.
Our trusty guide for this deep dive is, of course, theperfectdeveloper.com, your
Yes.
go-to source for finding the best developers out there.
It really is a great resource.
In fact, if you're already thinking, I need one of these gurus on my team, ASAP,
Yeah,
head over to theperfectdeveloper.com and try their 5 questions tool.
I was going to say that.
It's like a matchmaking service, but for developers and businesses.
It's true. It's fantastic. I've seen it work wonders connecting the right people with the right projects.
Okay, let's get into it. Some of those burning questions, shall we? First up, and this is a big one, what exactly is a web architecture developer?
Okay.
What do they actually do all day?
Right. So you can think of them as the masterminds behind the scenes of any successful web application. They're the ones who create the blueprints, they establish the structure, and ensure everything works together seamlessly. They're not necessarily writing every single line of code, but
Right.
they're making sure the code is structured in a way that allows for scalability, performance, and security. It's all about laying a solid foundation that can support future growth and adapt to changing needs.
So how are they different from your like everyday run-of-the-mill web developer?
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it all sounds pretty technical to me.
It is technical, but here's a way to visualize it. Imagine your web application is like a high performance car. So a regular web developer might be responsible for, building specific parts of the engine or fine tuning the suspension. The web architecture developer, however, is the one who designed the entire car from the ground up.
Oh, wow.
They understand how all the systems interact, how to optimize for speed and efficiency, and how to ensure the vehicle can handle, whatever road conditions it encounters.
Okay, that's a much cooler analogy than my house building one.
Yeah.
So they're like the high-octane engineers of the digital world.
Mhm.
Now, what kind of skills should I be looking for in a web architecture developer? I imagine they need to be pretty sharp cookies.
Absolutely, yeah. On the technical side, they need to be fluent in multiple programming languages. Think of it as being multilingual, but in the world of code.
Right.
They need to be comfortable working with databases, understand different server technologies, and be familiar with a range of architectural
So
patterns.
they're not just coding, they're strategizing and designing the entire system.
Exactly. And that's why, beyond those technical skills, they need to be big picture thinkers. They have to be able to see the whole system and understand how each component impacts the others,
Yeah.
and even anticipate potential problems before they even arise.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture here. So these web architecture developers are kind of like the unsung heroes of the web development world,
Yeah, I'd say so.
the ones who make sure everything runs smoothly behind the scenes.
You could definitely say that. They're the ones who ensure your website can handle a sudden surge in traffic, that your app integrates seamlessly with other systems, and that, your users have a positive and frustration-free experience.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Now let's get down to brass tacks. What are the benefits of bringing a dedicated web architecture developer on board? Is this a role that like every project needs?
So the answer, like most things in life, is it depends.
Sure.
But in general, having a skilled web architecture developer on your team can bring tremendous benefits, especially if you're building something complex,
Hmm.
something that needs to scale, or
Yeah.
something that you envision evolving over time. Think of it as an investment that pays off in the long run.
Okay, so tell me more about these long-term benefits. What are we talking about here?
Well, for starters, a well-designed architecture from the beginning can save you a ton of headaches and costly fixes down the road.
Okay.
It's like, building a house with a solid foundation. You're much less likely to have, cracks in the walls or a leaky roof later on.
So we're talking about preventing those, oh no, the website crashed again
Yeah.
moments.
Yeah.
Those are never fun.
Exactly. A good architect anticipates those potential problems before they even happen, and they ensure the system is built in a way that can adapt to changing needs and scale as your project grows.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like having a web architecture developer on board can save you time,
Yeah,
money,
for sure.
and a whole lot of stress in the long run. But let's get real for a second. Not every project has unlimited resources.
Hmm.
Do I really need a web architecture developer full-time, or
Right.
are there other options?
That's a great question and a common concern.
Yeah.
The good news is there are several ways to approach this. So if you have ongoing projects,
Okay.
a complex web ecosystem that requires constant attention,
Right.
then a full-time web architecture developer is probably your best bet.
Makes sense.
But if your needs are more sporadic or you're working on a specific project with a defined scope,
Yeah.
then a part-time or contract-based arrangement could be a great solution.
So there's flexibility,
Exact.
depending on the project needs. Now, let's say I'm convinced.
Right.
I'm ready to start the search. Where do I even begin to find these elusive web architecture developers?
Well, you're in luck because there are a lot of resources out there.
Oh, good.
Theperfectdeveloper.com, for example, is a fantastic starting point.
Okay.
They have a vast network of highly skilled developers and tools to help you find the perfect match for your project. But beyond that, you can also explore, job platforms like LinkedIn, Stack Overflow, and GitHub,
Right.
or even look into freelance websites like Upwork or TopTal for contract-based developers.
So it's all about exploring those different avenues and casting a wide net. Now, once I've found some promising candidates, it's time for the interview.
Yes.
What are some key questions I should ask to really gauge their expertise and make sure they're the right fit for my project?
Here's where it gets really interesting. You want to go beyond the typical tell me about your experience type questions
Right.
and really delve into their problem-solving abilities and architectural thinking.
Yeah.
I always recommend asking scenario-based questions.
Okay.
Something like, imagine we're facing this particular challenge with our web application. How would you approach solving it from an architectural standpoint? You want to see how they think, how they analyze problems, and how they come up with creative solutions.
So it's not just about checking off a list of technical skills, but really understanding how they approach real-world challenges.
Yeah.
What are some other red flags to
Yeah.
watch out for during the interview process?
Okay.
How can I make sure I'm getting the real deal and not someone who's just good at talking the talk?
That's a crucial point. One red flag is a lack of a portfolio or relevant experience. You want to see concrete examples of their past work,
Right.
especially projects where they played a key role in designing the architecture. Another thing to watch out for is unfamiliarity with current technologies. Web architecture is constantly evolving, so if a candidate seems stuck in the past, that's definitely a concern.
So I should be looking for someone who's not only skilled, but also adaptable and eager to learn and grow with the ever-changing landscape of web development.
Precisely. And don't underestimate the importance of communication skills.
Okay, yeah.
A web architecture developer needs to be able to explain complex concepts clearly to both technical and non-technical audiences. They need to be able to collaborate effectively with other developers, stakeholders, and clients. So pay attention to how they communicate their ideas during the interview process.
It's all starting to come together. Finding the right web architecture developer is a bit like assembling a puzzle, making sure all the pieces fit just right. Speaking of fitting in, let's talk about retaining these valuable team members once we've found them. How do we keep them happy, engaged,
Yeah.
and part of the team for the long haul?
Retention is key, especially in a field as competitive as this one.
Right.
Competitive salaries and benefits are a given, of course, but it goes beyond that.
Yeah.
You want to foster a culture of learning and growth. Offer opportunities for professional development,
Right.
whether it's attending conferences, taking courses, or pursuing certifications. Show them that you value their growth and are invested in their future.
So it's about creating an environment where they feel challenged, valued,
Sure.
and supported in their professional journey.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of recognition and appreciation.
Yeah.
Acknowledge their contributions, celebrate their successes, and make them feel like an integral part of the team.
Makes sense. Nobody wants to feel like a cog in a machine.
Right.
They want to know their work is making a difference and that they're part of something bigger.
And remember, clear communication is just as important for retention as it is for hiring.
Oh, yeah.
Regularly check in with your web architecture developer. Ask for their feedback, involve them in strategic decisions, and make sure they feel heard and understood.
So it's all about open communication, creating a positive and supportive work environment,
Yeah.
and investing in their professional growth.
You got it. Happy developers are productive developers, and productive developers build amazing things.
It's a great motto to live by.
Yes.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, from understanding the role of a web architecture developer to navigating the hiring process. and even retaining these valuable team members.
It's a lot.
But before we wrap things up, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier,
Okay.
theperfectdeveloper.com. Can you tell us a bit more about how they can help in the search for the perfect web architecture developer?
Absolutely. Theperfectdeveloper.com is a game changer for anyone looking to build a top-notch development team.
Okay,
They have a deep understanding of the industry, a vast network of skilled professionals, and a proven track record of success.
I see.
Their 5 questions tool, in particular, is a fantastic way to quickly and easily connect with developers who align with your specific needs and project requirements.
So it's like having a personal recruiter,
Yeah,
but without the hefty fees.
you could say that. They take the guesswork out of the hiring process and make it a whole lot smoother and more efficient.
Well, that sounds like a win-win to me.
Mm.
Okay, I think we're just about ready to wrap things up, but before we do, I have one final
Right.
and perhaps slightly morbid question.
Hit me.
What happens if I don't hire a web architecture developer? What's the worst that could happen?
That's a great question to end on because it really highlights the importance of this role.
Yeah.
While it's true that not every project requires a dedicated web architecture developer,
Sure.
skipping this step altogether, especially for complex or ambitious projects, can lead to a whole host of problems down the line.
Give me the nightmare scenario. Paint me a picture of what could go wrong.
Imagine this. You launch your web application, and everything seems to be running smoothly at first.
Okay.
But then, as your user base grows,
Yeah.
you start noticing performance issues.
Oh, no.
The site slows down, pages take forever to load,
Uh-huh.
and you're getting those dreaded error messages.
Okay, that's already giving me anxiety.
And it gets worse. Your development team is scrambling to fix the issues, but because the underlying architecture wasn't designed for scalability, it's like trying to patch up a sinking ship. You're constantly putting out fires, but not addressing the root cause of the problem.
So it's like building a house on a foundation of sand.
Yeah,
Eventually, the whole thing is going to crumble.
exactly. And that's not all. Without a solid architecture in place,
Oh, no.
you're also more vulnerable to security breaches, which can be a nightmare for any business, especially those handling sensitive user data.
Okay. That's a pretty convincing argument for hiring a web architecture developer.
Good.
I'm officially sold.
Glad to hear it.
But before we send everyone off to start their developer search, any final words of wisdom?
Absolutely. Don't underestimate the power of investing in a solid foundation for your web application. A skilled web architecture developer can be your guide, your mentor, and
Wow.
your partner in building something truly amazing.
Oh, wow.
So do your research, ask the right questions, and find the perfect developer to bring your vision to life.
And remember, if you're feeling overwhelmed or don't know where to start,
Yeah.
theperfectdeveloper.com is there to help. They have the resources, the expertise, and the network to connect you with the perfect developer for your needs.
It's true.
Try the 5 questions now at theperfectdeveloper.com.
Great advice.
All right. I don't know about you, but after that last scenario, I'm feeling very motivated to find myself a top-notch web architecture developer.
I can understand that. A little healthy fear can be a good thing, right?
For sure. But seriously, before we wrap up this mini deep dive, I want to zoom out for a second and talk about the bigger picture here.
Okay.
Why should anyone care about web architecture, even if they're not a developer themselves?
That's a great question. And it kind of gets to the heart of why this topic is relevant for, pretty much everyone in today's digital world. Think about it. A website, an app, any online platform.
Yeah.
It's more than just lines of code and fancy graphics.
Right.
It's a reflection of your brand, your business, your ideas,
Right.
and the architecture, the underlying structure. It's the foundation upon which everything else is built.
So we're talking about more than just aesthetics or functionality.
Yeah.
It's about creating a solid base that can support your goals and aspirations in the digital world.
Exactly. A well-architected platform is like a well-designed building.
Okay.
It's stable, it's efficient, and it can adapt to changing needs. Whether you're a small business owner, a creative entrepreneur, or a large organization, your web presence is often the first impression you make on the world. And you want that impression to be a positive one.
It's like that saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression.
Exactly. And in the digital world, that first impression is often shaped by the architecture of your website or application.
Okay, so we've established that web architecture is important, but what about those of us who don't speak code?
Yeah.
How can we ensure that our digital blueprints are, up to par?
Well, that's where the expertise of a web architecture developer comes in. Think of them as your trusted advisor. the one who can translate your vision into a technical reality. They understand the complexities of the digital world and can guide you in making, informed decisions that align with your goals and budget.
So even if we don't understand all the technical details, we can still be involved in the process and make sure our vision is being translated effectively.
Absolutely. Communication is key. Find a web architecture developer who can explain things clearly, who's willing to listen to your concerns, and who can collaborate with you to create something truly amazing.
And I imagine theperfectdeveloper.com can be a valuable resource in finding that perfect match.
Without a doubt, they have a knack for connecting people with the right expertise, and they have a real passion for helping businesses succeed in the digital world.
Well, that's a perfect note to end on. We've covered a lot of ground in this mini deep dive,
We have.
but the key takeaway is clear investing in a solid web architecture is an investment in your future success.
It's true.
It's about creating a digital foundation that can support your growth, adapt to changing needs, and leave a lasting positive impression on the world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So to all our listeners out there, if you're looking to build something amazing in the digital world, don't underestimate the power of a skilled web architecture developer. Head over to theperfectdeveloper.com, try their 5 questions tool, and start building that dream today. Until next time, happy developing.